Welcome to Keep the Hotel Empty live stream. Today we did not keep the hotel empty, we took the hotel with us to Oscura in Bradenton. Today we are joined by Paul D. King from Reggae Rise Up, Brandon from Fiends, Cassie from All Hail the Queen, and Ben from In Transit Band, as well as the lovely establishment we are in, Oscura. Today we're doing something a little bit different. No time constraint, no real rules, not that we have rules anyways, but definitely no rules today. We've got 4 unique people here, 4 unique perspectives from the music world, so we're just gonna chop up music, live music, dead music, all the music in between. So guys, thank you so much for coming. Ben, thank you for having us. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for coming.
So I'd like to get started with something. I know you guys have all had some more, this is more than just your first rodeo. So I'd like to kind of get started with some of the things that are shockingly different for you now than it was from when you started. Things that used to be the tried and true ways to do things that have now kind of changed. And I kind of want to start with you, Paul, because I know promoting is a lot of the places where bands get hooked up and things can be made or broken. Live shows, drops of albums, drops of new videos, whatever. And Paul is the promotion expert at the table. So you used to do when you started street teaming and promoting, and some of the things that you're doing now, and then we'll talk about how that's kind of dovetailing in with everybody else.
Oh man, well, I'm still street teaming 10 years later. I feel like it's different now for me because I was always a street teamer and a musician, and I mean I'm still a musician, but I'm now street teaming and then working the behind the scenes of the shows. So I used to be one of the street teamers that was being wrangled, and now I'm the wrangler.
So back in the day when you first started street teaming, what was some of the stuff that you had to make sure everybody was doing? I mean, it was all straight hand to mouth, so to speak, right?
Yeah, we do, and you know, a lot of that is the same now. We still do, you know, and now things are a little different in like an application to track everything. So we can track basically every poster that's put up across the entire world through an application.
And what advantage has that given you from before when it was just like, send it and hope it gets somewhere?
Yeah, before it was turn in a list of locations to me, and then I'd have to cross-reference the list with pictures of the posters. And now I can literally just go on there and look and see that everybody's actually doing it, and see who's doing it, who's not doing it, who's trying to do it. People who are trying to do it, maybe they're not hitting the mark all the way, but they're close. We can kind of coach to get them where they need to be. We start seeing pictures of people putting up posters on, say, like the sides of buildings, or, you know, or on buildings that are closed, which isn't really what we're looking for. We're trying to be in the windows of the establishments facing the street, you know, so as people walk by, they can see posters. As they come in and out the front doors of establishments, they can see the posters. Not just like, we're here, we're just gonna slap our poster wherever we want and without asking anybody permission, because you can tell the difference between someone who just puts a poster up somewhere and just put it up without asking anybody, or someone like, it's more, I like to say that we're not just putting up posters, we're building relationships with local businesses, local business owners. You know, we're going in, we're introducing ourselves, letting them know, hey, Reggae Rise Up is coming to town. I'd say a lot of well, around here, we get a lot of people know about Reggae Rise Up already, but like Vegas and Baltimore, we get a lot more people who've never heard about it before.
Yeah, and that's what I was just gonna ask. So you're promoting, we're talking about promoting shows that are on the scale of attendees in the tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Big shows. Back in the day, when it was Summer Survivors days, man, we were just
And that's kind of what I want to ask you about then, because I know one of the things that's changed is, sort of back in the day, you could rely on the venue or the promoters to do all the promotion, like you still kind of can for if you're a band that's playing a 10, 20,000 festival gig, you can expect the festival to do things like have the street teams and do this. But when you're the club owner or you're the little bit smaller band now, how are you kind of balancing whose job it is to promote? Because if you leave it on all the bands, you risk not having all the heads you need in the room. If you leave it all on you, you risk not necessarily getting through to the band's crowd. So how do you kind of navigate the onus of promotion when you're the band and when you're the venue operator?
As far as, being a venue, we certainly spend a lot of time and effort on our own, digital reach, as far as getting the word out. Matt, our for lack of a better term, music director, also works really diligently to send out monthly press releases of our upcomings to all of the news wires like Creative Loafing and, the Herald Tribune and any other kind of music publications so that they can get, weekend write-ups and things of that nature. We're pushing as hard as we can. And of course, we expect the bands to also be promoting and putting in the time and work to get the word out, and as venue owners, just like any venue owners, we pay attention to when we book bands, who's coming in with the work ethic and putting in the time, right? Like, I don't know, sometimes it just doesn't work in your favor, right? Sometimes a band can promote so hard and there just happens to be something going on that night that's going to affect the turnout, right? That's not their fault, but, we're bands that do the work as well as us, we're here to help them, but they need to help themselves, right?
So you do still maintain a little bit of the attitude that some of the onus should be on you.
Yeah, we want to help. We want to get the word out as well because, right, the people who may see our social media channels may not be connected with that band, right? And they may find out through us rather than that. And that does happen a lot. We have a lot of people that come to shows not because they heard about it from the band, they read it in the paper or they read it on, Creative Loafing's website, or they saw it in one of our, Instagram stories or our reels or something like that. So it's, we want to help the band succeed as well. We're on their team. We're all in this together, right? We're in here to foster a healthy music scene. That takes us, that takes the bands, it takes everybody working together.
So you don't mind shouldering some of the promotion?
No, not at all.
So Brandon, how was it for you? I know you guys have done some gigs where you've been running around just the local southeast here. How much have you seen venues have that sort of mentality when you show up? Have you seen the promotion being done, or is it kind of some of what we're used to where you show up to the venue and it's like, did you at all mention we were going to be here?
Bro, it's slim, and like Ben doing the work, Oscura doing the work. It's really, really cool to see. Not a lot of venues do that. Not
Right,
a lot of,
that's
not a
why
lot
I
of
asked.
promoters do that. But I mean, it really reverts back to like the street team mentality, like feet on the street, go to shows, talk to as many people as you can, hand out flyers, like the old school mentality, bro. Like, it's now effective now more than I think it was back in the day, just because like the whole internet, the whole like promotional campaign online, look at my Instagram posts, look at whatever the hell, like that gets so glazed over.
Right.
Nobody really pays
Definitely.
attention.
It's a lot of noise.
It's a lot of noise.
Gets lost.
It's a lot of noise.
So how much effort can you really put into that? Like even from Reggae Rise Up on down to you, is it when you're doing those kind of promotions, is it more like an obligatory thing, the pennies have to go in the well? Or is it just like, just that knowing the devil you're dealing with?
That should be the standard. The standard is definitely post, definitely invite people online. But the elevated standard is to go to shows, go to crowds, go to places you don't know the people, and make friends with them and invite them personally. That's more effective. in
That's
my
what
opinion.
got Summer Survivors all of our opportunities.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was at every show.
Yeah.
I was meeting everybody
Right.
everywhere. I mean, I was everywhere and just promoting. I'd be out there handing out CDs and talking to people, handing out flyers, starting out on the street team. That's what got us everything, was promoting. And
Right, because that's kind of the core of the building the network.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you this, Cassie. You have to do a lot of your promoting online because of the nature of your band at the moment. So how do you work that, knowing that that's your main bread and butter right now?
Honestly, we still talk about it to people that we meet, and I meet a lot of people through work and through my other band, and they're always interested to hear about it because it's like, it's something different,
Right. And that's one of the other challenges too. You're promoting a relatively unique thing.
Yeah, especially if I'm talking to people like, I play the bagpipes in a pipe band, a Celtic performance band, and I'm talking to people, they're like, what else do you do? And I'm like, I do a metal band too. And they're just like, no, I'm just kidding. They really are usually very receptive to it and are cool. But We honestly, like, it just makes so much of a difference if you're actually speaking to people, and like talking to them, making friends, and like because then they're really genuinely interested. They're putting a face with this concept, and then they look you up on Instagram or whatever, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, you have videos. It's so much easier to talk to people than it is to like try to get people to care online. And it is hard for All Hail the Queen at the moment to come up with a lot of stuff to post because, there's just a couple of us right now. We're still looking
Right.
for a guitarist. So it's
So
not
how
like
do
we
you-
have a plethora of stuff to post, but we're,
Right, but you have the whole package. You have plenty of videos. You just released your EP In Search of Grace just a couple months ago, not even, right?
yeah.
So how do
Which
you
is really
handle
good, by
pushing
the way.
that?
Thank you. Oh, shucks.
Yeah, I'm so hooked on Ophelia. If none of you have seen that video, go watch it. I'm hooked on that one.
Oh, you guys.
But how did you approach that, knowing full well that you weren't going to do like Fiends did and go play a string of shows immediately after you dropped it to try to keep some hype going? You knew you had to have just the media you had made to keep you going after dropping something you worked so hard on.
Honestly, it is tough if you don't if you know that you're not going to be playing shows right away. That is the thing that fuels me. Like playing, even just at rehearsal, like playing our music I just feel that is my happy place. And playing shows and meeting new friends and being able to perform music in front of people is just everything. It is everything. And knowing that we're not going to be able to do that for a little while, it's tough. It really is. But it keeps us going because we know that like this is the thing that we love. This is what we want to do. So it has been a little tough though, not having enough content. We're just kind of trying to, honestly, being a part of the podcast is just like so cool, and it just keeps us grounded in the scene. I feel like it really just is it's wonderful to sit here with you guys and be with like such good friends and be able to talk about the thing that we love so much.
Yeah, and the network is really how you survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Ben and I, we were talking a little bit before we got on the air here. I know a lot of bands kind of take things in a different order now, and that's one of the things that have changed, where you've got someone kind of like Fiends where they can write the record, record the record, gestate on it forever, and then go do the shows. And then you got bands where you can do sort of what All Hail the Queen had done, where you can do the entire record, make some of the media up front, and then see who's going to play, and then see what you're going to do. So I'm interested in Ben, I would like your take on it, because I know you've been in the game for a minute, and of course any of yours as well. What do you think about the way to do a band now? What do you think about this whole thing that it's not just sit down and grind out some tunes? You have to sculpt out this content. You have to do all this stuff now.
I'm still grappling with that. Like, I was so used to the process being, first you find people you're going to play music with, right? Then you get in a garage and just suck, right? And just start writing tunes. And then when you get those tunes where you think you've got 30 minutes strung together in music, then you go play an opening slot, at some pub, and you pick up a few more fans and a few more fans, and then you get your songs so dialed in. Then you go record them.
Right, and that could be a whole year or
And
more.
that could take forever because you're going to a recording studio, and after you put the album out, then maybe you pick your best song and turn that into a music video, right? I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way now.
Right.
I'm seeing there's so many combinations. Some of them work, some of them don't. It's kind of a crapshoot. Like, there are bands putting out. You guys put out like 2 amazing music videos before you had a release, right? Which is like so cool because at first somebody like me is thinking that seems out of order, but no, you're actually creating buzz for the album rather than putting out the album and then doing the video, which actually makes so much more sense. And people are, I think musicians nowadays, maybe where we didn't, 20, 30 years ago, are realizing the value of marketing, right? Like rather than going out and playing shows and grinding it out to 3 or 4 people,
which is a lot more expensive.
yeah, they're actually doing a marketing campaign, if you will. And there's so many bands that are putting out full albums before they've ever played a single show. right? Which is just, it's wild. But in that aspect, right? They put that album out there. They got listeners, they got plays, they got people interested in them, and then they announced we're playing our debut show at, whatever place. Man, whatever works, whatever gets your music into people's heads, there's no formula anymore.
And how did you handle that with In Transit?
Stubbornly, the old way.
You put out a couple of singles first, or just one, or how did you do it?
When we got together, we started writing stuff. We did immediately run into Bird Orange and record one song. Like, we need to at least get some kind of media out there. So we recorded one song and put it out there, and then started playing shows, behind it, and broadening our set, from 30 minutes to 45 minutes or whatever. But now, 5 years into the band, we've definitely started adapting more into the game of like not doing a full album, doing a single at a time to lead into it, staying in front of people with fresh media so that we're never too far, out of mind. This break that we're on right now, finishing up the album, is probably the longest break we've ever taken. To focus on something, but it's just a different way now. You want to stay front of mind with people, and that is done in small bits.
Yeah, and that's what I was just gonna say. How much do you feel, and Cassie, you might be a good one on this because you're kind of living on this. How much do you feel that it's important to just turn out anything you can, regardless of what it was, just so you don't get buried? I mean, do you feel that obligation? Do you feel pressure to do that?
Yeah, but you want quality control. You don't want to just put something out for the sake of putting something out.
Because there's definitely plenty of that going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We see it.
Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I suppose.
Right. And how much, I mean, we all have to promote, and now that the vehicles to promote are so easy, we all have now an easier time to make content to promote. There's just inherently more content and more promotion. Do you think at some point there's a diminishing return of that, and that's why, Brandon, you can say things like, I can post all I want, and it just gets glossed over?
Dude, yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about consistency, but I think in terms of promotion, it's all relative to the band. It's relative to the brand of the band, the type of music you're playing. But I have found that consistency in your brand, in promoting your brand, will have a higher return than just like pumping a song out or taking a bunch of pics that don't make sense with the brand of your band, or you're just like trying to force content. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Yeah, I think it's just all relative to the band, man, to whoever is putting the content out.
So the uphill battle is real. We all know that.
Yeah.
Paul, I want to ask you, what do you see some of the bands doing that are coming from the side stages at Reggae Rise Up and making it to the main stage? Bands that didn't necessarily grind out and play 100 shows over 6 months or whatever ridiculous like that to be known. How do you see some of these bands pushing themselves up? Like, what was that band that just killed it at Janice you told me about? Something, they're like a hip-hoppy thing.
Little Stranger?
Yeah.
They
Talk to me a little bit about how you see bands like Little Stranger and bands that are coming up and
They have
their
really
scene
good
blowing
music.
up.
Their music is fire.
Yeah, but we all know that. I mean, we're sitting at a table with people who all made fire music. How do you see people doing it who are getting their fire burning?
Well, they're very unique. They're, it's two guys hip hop band. One guy, he does the hip hop stuff and plays a melodica and a synth, and the other guy plays guitar, runs the computer. It's just it's not really like that. It's that much different, I guess, than everything else that everybody's doing. But it was really when I saw them at Janice last time, and I saw at Janice, it's about 2,000 people. But I was like upstairs in the upstairs bar, and there was nobody in the bar while they were playing. Everybody was out there watching the show, like a part of the show. And I'm like, man, it's really strange to see people have that big of a connection with them. But that band's been coming here. They've been doing like backyard parties. They've been like really connecting.
Okay, so they got a grind backstory.
They've been connecting with the fans. And so I've seen them. I sat in a treehouse and watched them in someone's backyard, play a show in someone's backyard. Like, it was freaking awesome. but they have a really strong connection with their fans, and I think that spreads like wildfire. You know, when people get that excited about it and are that connected to them.
Have you seen any bands do anything that surprised you that led to them ending up main stage or even getting a side stage gig?
Oh man, I'd have to. That's a good question. I think I would have an answer to that. I'd have to skim through my backlog in my brain.
What about you, Brandon?
Are you talking about like overnight luck,
Like,
kind of?
What gets perceived as that?
Right.
The people who can't say, "Oh, we this is our 6th album, and you're just finding out about us now." You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, seemingly behind everybody that's made it, there's always that decade of grinding, that decade and a half of grinding, connecting with every single person. It's the slow build, but
But now the internet has given some people the ability to leapfrog.
real talk, real talk.
some people have that knack too. That like for me, the internet is become like social media is becoming more of like an annoyance than something that I really truly care about and want to be on all the time. But some people have that,
Yeah.
like Kyle Smith, for instance. Like he's grinding, and I'm just watching him go from a smaller stage act earlier in the day to getting up there, selling a ton of tickets. I mean, the guy's hustling, but he's building a connection with his fans, and just watching how this guy's on. I mean, post. I mean, grinding on social media.
So
And
there still is that lane to make that virtual connection into a real one.
definitely.
So as long as we're talking selling tickets, let's have the uncomfortable portion of the music show, the money show. So Ben, I want to start with you because I know venues get a lot of heat for this. Not necessarily a venue like this that we're in right now, but the bigger ones. A, how do you handle the way you want to pay the bands, whether or not it's contract or draw? And B, would you ever or have you ever considered asking for a merch cut?
I don't think we will ever ask for a merch cut, ever. We've got a really unique place in our scene. This is a venue created by musicians for musicians,
Huge.
which sounds very poetic and romantic, right?
It is.
But it's also hard, right? Because we're also operating a business,
Right.
right? And we have bills to pay and rent to pay and electric bills to pay and things of that nature, right? And so if we don't, if we pay the bands, really well and we don't make any money, then we go out of business and then none of us have a place to play, right? So it's a really hard line to mine because
Right.
we strive so hard to be several different things here, to be a welcoming environment for musicians, to give them the absolute best experience. We have all been on so many stages at so many venues, and we can all remember in our mind's eye which were the great stages to play, which had the sound guy that wasn't a jerk,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
How rare is that?
Right.
To have the bar staff treat us nicely, to, and when you leave, you're like, I can't wait to play that place again. And then there's other places, right, where maybe we've played some big stages that we've always wanted to play, and the experience was miserable,
Right.
right? And so we're trying at Oscura to be a place that has a reputation for being really good to our bands. But at the same time, we have to keep our doors open, right? And we have to be profitable if we're going to stay being a place for the bands. So we're constantly kind of trying to find the best thing, but what we pretty much do, or the system we've pretty much set on, at least for the local shows,
Right. Yeah.
is like, hey, we let the bands kind of set ticket prices, and we keep them within reason, right? And people pay at the door, and the first there's a cut at the door that at least covers the payroll costs for the sound guy and for the bar staff. That way, if nobody showed up to this show, at least we didn't lose money on payroll, right?
Okay.
And then everything over and above that, the bands keep. right? And if they bring in a ton, it doesn't matter. Our fee doesn't really change,
Okay,
right?
so that's very unique.
Yeah.
So I'm on a
So if a
circle-
band brings in a ton of people, they're gonna do well. Now with promoters, right? Paul, I'm sure can speak to this. When we're working with actual promoters who are bringing in a package, that's a completely different setup.
Right.
And then it's a completely different transaction where we're basically placing the evening in the hands of the promoter, and kind of offering our room, right? And still making sure we cover some baseline costs.
I was going to say, that's the scenario where people want to take the merch cut. So how do you avoid that? You're really just doing it out of principle.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of reverse engineer to say, I only want from the bands what it takes me to operate, and the rest I'll split off to you.
Like, how many of us have played shows where we drove 2 hours to get to the venue, and we played to 40 people, and we made $60 at the bar from the venue,
Right.
but we made 300 selling our merch.
Exactly.
Okay,
And that's what
that's
I want.
still a good night.
Very.
So we don't need to take a merch cut, because that could be how they make even more money.
I think it's important for people to hear that, because that's a super hot button issue right now. If you don't want to answer this one, you don't have to.
I mean, there's a couple. I look at this scenario as a musician standpoint, but also as a promoter standpoint now, and I don't really know exactly how I feel about it yet.
Right. It's a hairy one.
But I can tell you what I know about it so far. So, for instance, at a venue like Janice Live, the promoter and the house, split the merch cut or whatever. They charge a merch cut. They've been charging a merch cut there for
Ever and ever. Amen.
forever, ever, and they will probably continue to do that forever and ever and ever and ever. But only to the headliners. They don't take cuts from the opening bands. They've never taken a cut from an opening band. And if you look at it like from a perspective of a brick and mortar that's here, set in stone, and then on a festival standpoint where
You got a one chance to make that money.
we're
Yeah.
building we're building the site, we're bringing 20,000 people to there, so should they get a cut? I mean, yeah, probably.
Right.
And from what I know,
That's two very different sides to a big coin.
yeah, and a lot of the bigger bands are using merch companies who, guess what? They're taking a cut too. So they're not creating all their own merch. There's a separate company making the merch for them and shipping it out to the shows,
I did not know that.
So there's a lot of different hands in the pot. So I always feel bad. Like, I almost took a merch cut for the Bacon and Barbecue Fest or Tacos and Tequila. And it was even in the contract, and I still didn't go take it from the band at the end of the day because I just felt bad. But it's like, if the band's selling, tens of thousands of dollars of merch, I think, one of the big headliners could sell upwards of $100,000 worth of merch.
Do you think that that's kind of become the modern equivalent of pay to play? I mean, have any of you guys ever done, I'm sure you have, done where you got to sell the 2-drink minimum tickets? I'm sure you probably did those in
We used to get
Self-Go
hit
public
up.
days.
We used to get hit up by what was the name of that company? To start with the A.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Afton.
Afton,
Oh
yes.
my
Bro, they used
gosh.
to.
I
they
just
used
got
to-
I just got PTSD from hearing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Tell the story. I know zero of this.
Yeah, you had to sell a certain amount of tickets to play at Orpheum and I was like, I wasn't always against it, but I'm like, all the shows that they wanted us to play and sell tickets for, I literally never heard of any of the bands.
And there's a reason for that. It was bad.
Yeah. My Afton or something like that, right? Yeah.
The worst.
Afton.
The worst.
Man, yeah,
So does that still go on anymore?
Hopefully not.
I don't know.
The Dukes, I call them 2-drink minimums.
It does.
I don't-
It does. I've seen it, and I feel bad because I think it's predatory on young bands.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
always was.
It's so predatory.
Yeah, it's like, well, you want to open for your favorite band? All right, sell 100 tickets.
Well, dude, if they would have said I was gonna open for my favorite band, I would have sold 100
Dope.
tickets. Like all these bands I didn't even never hear of.
Well, what
Like,
these end up being is like a Sunday afternoon matinee,
Yeah.
at the Orpheum, and it's 9 bands that are all young kids and
Different genres, not even-
completely different genres, and it's just a train wreck. And it is what it is. But those kids are just excited to get on a stage in a big venue.
Right.
But at the same time, we've done them. We've done our share of them. After the first couple go-rounds, we knew what we were getting into. So the few times after that we did them, we went into it with our eyes open and literally just did it as networking events. Like, we're going to meet 9 other bands. Maybe 3 or 4 of them will turn out to be cool, and we'll book some shows with them afterwards.
Yeah.
How prevalent is that sort of thing still?
What?
What?
Like doing like the showcase gigs or whatever, where you kind of show up and nobody gets paid and it's all kind of...
Dude, you like a battle of the bands? Like, you never
Yeah.
see anything like that anymore, do you? Like,
Yeah, so that's one of the big things that's changed. What do any of you have an opinion? What's up with that? Is it just because everything has to be a money grab now?
that I feel like COVID changed a lot of things, especially like in our area, Bradenton and Sarasota, for bands. There's not really a whole lot of places that you can even do something like that. Like
Yeah, true.
Gator Club used to do every
It was like every Wednesday or something.
Yeah, one Wednesday a month. It was like a local band showcase thing, and I don't know if they still do it or not, but I haven't heard of them doing it, and I don't know. It just seemed like after COVID, everything kind of like the whole scene in Sarasota, Bradenton, kind of
Suffered.
yeah.
What do you think? Because it was just you couldn't guarantee the money, so now taking a risk of doing anything where you had to operate at a loss was just like so. All venue owners were just so averse to it. It was like, man, forget this.
I feel like it just became a thing of like, we're gonna have a battle of the bands, but it's pretty much just voting online. Put your votes
right,
here.
Yeah.
It's like, what
Shout
happened?
out Joe Soul, 1-800-FUNK Sauce. He got himself in one of those, hacked the thing, and won by thousands of votes. That put an end to that system. So, you can't really do that as the venue owner, and it becomes unpopular because, okay, there's a chance that this isn't going to be popular. Same thing kind of holds true when you get into niche genre shows where you're kind of in that world, Brandon, where your band is pretty goddamn heavy, and you're not your standard metal band. You're multi-genre when you get on the bill. So I kind of want to ask you and Ben the same question. Do you find it at all difficult to try to shop yourself as a metal band because of the natural aversion people get when you say heavy metal? And Ben, do you find it weird, I want to follow up finding it weird, that you've taken this risk to book metal bands and how it's been for you? So Brandon, tell me first, do you feel like odd shopping a metal band?
No. Not anymore. Not anymore. It used to feel that way like a decade ago, man, but like the mixed genre shows, I think because of COVID, bro, like it's opened up this door for people to say, fuck it, like I just want to go see music. I want to go be a part of this. And especially the younger generations coming up now too, they're just excited to be at a show. And so I think it's nicer to have that wide variety, that palette, a different palette in a showcase. Like it works. I was playing something the other day and it was like rapper, metal band, rapper, metal band, rapper, metal band, and it just like worked really, really well. Like the crowd was mixed, everyone was vibing.
So where do you think that new open-mindedness was just born from COVID, where if we can't see any music, we're gonna actually love all music when we can come back?
I think it for sure helped it out. Yeah.
I used to love playing those shows where there was 10 bands and they would sandwich Summer Survivors in between 2 metal bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to
It's so
love that
cool.
because
And how was that for you, Cassie? You got a band. When you guys end up on a bill, you're not like anybody else by default.
No, they're usually pretty stoked to hear that there's bagpipes,
Nice.
so that
Yeah.
helps. Yeah, we're usually like on a show with like a bunch of deathcore bands, which is fun because we're friends with all of them. But yeah, it's rare to get booked with other bands that are where do we fit, you know?
Right. So Ben, talk to me a little bit about how you make a metal show fit. What was it like when you first started saying you're going to let some hardcore ass metal throw down in here?
We've been doing metal shows for a few months now, and man, I will flat out tell you, the metal crowd is great, and here's what I mean. Part of me is really sad that I don't think the 20 and 30-year-old generation right now really values going out and seeing live bands like years past for most genres, but people turn out for metal shows. People come out and support and pack a room for metal shows more than they do indie shows. And that whole kind of ethos that if you book a metal show, a bunch of stuff is going to get broken. People are nothing but, great here. We have no issues. There's no egos. There's no fights. There's no nothing. Everybody's really, really chill. I've been here for a metal show, and I've been here for one of Paul's reggae shows, and the crowd's the same. Bunch of chill, happy people just enjoying music. So I give tremendous shout outs to the metal community for still holding live performance of music as sacredly as they do. I wish a lot of the other genres were as fervent as the metal crowd is.
Right. Did you see that when you traveled that little bit, Brandon?
What's that?
That people were enthusiastic to see you where you showed up?
I mean, for sure. It's the metal community. It's like the heavier music scene. I mean, the underground scene, it seems like there's more ego than there is, like, outside of it. Like, especially being...
What do you think
especially
contributes that?
I was there first syndrome.
Yeah?
Yeah, maybe so. It's usually all small time bands or whatever that are like the most egotistical in my experience. It's never anybody that's like doing good, you know.
Do you see that, Paul, with the bigger bands? The bigger bands are generally chill to each other, or they're just more compartmentalized, so it's less of an issue?
I mean, with the reggae scene, I mean, we're everybody's family. It seems like, it's...
The
it
reggae
doesn't
world
seem
and the
like
metal
there's
world
really,
are kind of
Yeah,
analogous.
I feel like
Yeah.
they're very similar, and they're really. I never viewed any thing as a competition between other bands. Like I was always stoked to see bands get on bills and hope that people were stoked that my band was getting on bills. But it was never like, oh, what the fuck. Oh shit, are we allowed?
No, you're good. You can curse like that.
Shit. Shit, that band
We got a fucking warning on this.
oh shit, that band got that. What, man, I should have got that. Like, no, I never felt that way. I was always like, man, good for them, dude, And I kind of was able to give like the same, like a Reggae Rise Up kind of gave me that opportunity. I was able to give that to a friend, my buddy, whose band, he's been working the street team with me, and he's been hustling and doing a great job. And they just got put on Maryland. They're put on Florida. Now they're kind of like in the Summer Survivor shoes as the local band that's going to be on all the festivals. And
So that kind of cycles back to one of the questions from before. One of the ways that you can get yourself on a bigger stage is help promote that stage.
I mean, dude, there's nothing that a band could do better than to get out there and put the word out about shows. Promoters love it, venues love it. It's a win-win. And, just getting your brand out there. It's like no one's gonna do that for you. I mean, the promoters, like we street team, we promote, but a band that goes out there and hits the streets and does it for themselves are the ones that are gonna succeed. I mean, that's literally what got us all of our opportunities. Everything.
And now that seems so counterintuitive to keyboard warriors.
Right.
So Brandon,
yeah.
what's some of the stuff that you do when you put on the shoes and hit the streets?
Talk.
Yeah, like what? Where do you go? What do you do?
Talk. We go to shows. Like it's usually me and James from Fiends.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just go catch a show in a different city, different whatever. It's kind of in the same ish genre. Usually we'll try to like hit a venue that we're gonna play in like a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be like we'll get you to come back. We'll talk to you, be like, yo, we're playing it or whatever. We'll see somebody wearing a shirt. We'll be like, love your shirt. Start a conversation, make friends with them, connect with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just invite them. Let them know that we're in a band, ask if they're in a band, get on the same common ground, man, and then just try to make as many friends as possible. That's it. And then usually people are mad receptive. It's easy.
So just the old school networking.
Yes,
never
dude.
die.
Yes, it will never die. If anything, it's coming back stronger.
I
than
was
ever.
gonna say, I feel like it's almost important for people to hear that the revival of that's a thing, and not to be hesitant in doing that.
Well, dude, because you'll hear all the time. I hear it all the time of like bands will be like, dude, yeah, we put $200 in this Instagram ad or some shit, and it like didn't get anything. Like, it's just dying.
It's like how much do you really absorb? Like how many of us just sit there on our phone
Scroll,
and just
scroll.
How much do we really absorb? Like
None of it.
I don't know. I mean, but also we're all of us, are the generation that also didn't have that and now have that.
Right.
We're not the generation that has always had it. So
Yeah.
is it different for them? Is it different for them than it is for us? because I don't know, I didn't have a cell phone in high school. I was out of high school pretty much until I had my first phone.
Yeah, same.
So is it just that maybe we're a little more jaded to it than
Well, okay,
the
so
younger
that's a
generations?
good question, because at Reggae Rise Up specifically, you're drawing a very wide age range of people.
Yep.
Like stupid wide age range of people.
And last year, I will say that we had way more of the younger than I've seen at anyone past. It was a lot more younger kids.
awesome.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I want to get at. Do you, Brandon, your band definitely has a younger fan base. Do you find that your genre in general
Yeah, right.
has a younger fan base?
Like 30 and under
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah, there's not a lot of 60-year-olds fucking melting face.
There's a couple.
Yeah, there's a couple. It's not a
Yeah.
lot.
They're the coolest
Reggae
ones.
shows, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
It's-
100%, 100%.
So, do you find that you have to, or you consciously tailor your market or your marketing to?
Not really, man, because like us in the band, we have best friends. We have like fans that'll come that we're best friends with that are like 50, 60 years old, and they love it. Like the metal community has that, reggae community has that. Like they're diehard. If you're a metal fan, like you're a metal fan for life kind of thing. Reggae
Right,
fan
yeah.
for life kind of thing.
You're right.
It's just that I think it's a little more palatable, more digestible for the 35 and under range, like metal music, heavy music in general.
And Cassie, how do you handle that? How do you try to target your marketing, or do you not try to target it, since your music has a pretty damn broad appeal too, since you're not just super metal or a straight bagpipe band?
Yeah, we honestly, we just kind of like put it out there, and like it'll resonate with people. Like, and I don't always expect it. Like somebody will just say like, "Yo, we caught that video and it was dope," and I'm just like, "Wow, I didn't know that you cared." But like about heavier music. Like, yeah, there's some screaming stuff in there, but like it's just really interesting to me that like it's like a broad range of people that like our music. I mean, I've kind of looked at the stats, and it's mostly like it's like 18 to like 40, but we do have fans. Like we've had fans that show up that like consistently at shows that are like 60, 65, 70. Like that's dope.
Hell yeah.
We love that.
Yeah, that's sick.
So, do any of you like promote and troll through like subreddits or Facebook groups, or like Florida metal bands? Like I'm part of a Florida metal
Yeah.
group on Facebook, and some guy I've never known in my life posts a thing. I don't know what's going on in Florida, but Florida metal bands are killing it, and
There's
I love
something in the
Fiends.
water, yeah,
Yeah. And I was like, hey, I know that guy. So it's weird where you can find these niche lanes of promotion where it's like maybe you're only talking to 100 or 1,000 people, but like all 1,000 of them are totally all about what you do. And this is sort of the thing, because I didn't have my first cell phone until later. Some of this goes over my head. I don't Reddit. I just started getting on Facebook groups because Seth has taught
Yeah.
me that there's people there that care. Have any of you tried to do that? Have you delved into the nukes and or crannies?
I mean, I post a lot. Like I have a list of Facebook groups that I'm constantly updating to promote in. So, I can just share the shows that are coming up, or for promoting whatever festival it is. But
And you do it just like reggae groups or Southwest Florida groups?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And anytime I find a new group, or I get invited to groups all the time, just different whatever groups, and so I'll check them out. And like I said, I'm kind of I hate to say it, but like social media is just not like my favorite thing anymore.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
It's a necessary evil.
It is.
Right.
Yeah,
It is.
for sure.
But it seems like some of these things, like Reddit and things like that.
Reddit's great, dude. We got we got a show canceled on one of the tours that we did, and John got on Reddit. We were in not Myrtle Beach. We were in North Carolina. He got on Reddit, posted some stuff. Boom, got us another gig, and we went and played. We found like a lunchtime gig. We played on the porch of this lazy pirate in Wilmington Beach, and ended up getting fed, getting
Sick.
paid, having a blast,
That's a win.
and then they booked
That's
us
where the
back
technology
again.
was a good thing.
Yeah.
You couldn't have pounded enough payment to land that gig.
Nope. And it came in clutch, and then we ended up going back there several times over the years and playing. Like, just turned out to be a great relationship. But that was right off of Reddit. Like, that was something that I would have never done.
Right.
But he immediately, boom, right on Reddit.
It's rad.
Hey,
And I know James has some unique things he does with Fiends. Does he do any things like that?
He does a lot of weird shit. or not weird shit, but like he does a lot.
He's very in tune with it.
Yeah, he's very in tune with it, and he's very, very invested in like the underground, behind the doors, Reddit, stuff like that. I just don't have the capacity for it. I'd rather go to a show and meet people. I mean, he's with that too, but like,
Yeah, of course.
that's Reddit's like its own thing. You can do that and get away with it
It's
and find a
just
community.
ultra targeted marketing.
Mega targeted, but like, I mean, there's been bands, bro. Like, you'll be on Facebook or whatever, and then some random guy will add you. You have no idea who it is, a band guy, whatever, and he'll immediately message you and be like, "Check out my band." That's such a turnoff.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I'll
don't
check
even
it
look
out,
at
bro,
them
but
anymore.
like, say hi. Like, let's find some common ground first, and then promote
Yeah.
yourself. But
Find
also
me dinner
like,
first.
ask.
Right.
That's such a turnoff.
I don't even
It's crazy.
accept random friend requests anymore.
do.
Like unless I'm standing next to you and like let's become friends. Like I don't even, you
Yeah.
know, it's just there's too many people that just all they want to do is just push. I'm like, yeah, I just like it's just overwhelming, you know.
Yeah, right. Okay, so but it seems like as a performer, regardless of your genre, it's almost like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Necessary evil, bro.
So how do you?
A face-to-face interaction, I feel like, is the best.
Yeah, right. But there's
You
not
know,
enough.
You can't always do that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, some faceless promotion has to be done, but in the name where there's so much faceless promotion, what are some of the things you can suggest to have that stuff stand out? Because it is a necessary evil, like you said. You have to do it, even if only 1 out of 1 million people is going to give a shit.
Legible graphics.
You're in the metal world. Don't talk to me about that.
Okay, like make a good flyer. Make
Fiends
some
is
like
the
this.
only
Like
metal
look at
band.
the Oscura flyer like that. That's
Be
a
the
great
only name you can read on the flyer.
Be the only name you can read.
flyer. That's so funny.
Well, in the metal world, there's some validity to that.
True.
There's some.
You know,
There's
but
some-
honestly, what's some of the things you think you can do that are important to do, even the just have to's?
I don't even know if there's a silver bullet anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
It's just got that
when we
convoluted.
book a show, we've almost got a checklist now, and it's like we go to these media outlets and these social channels and these things, and we post, and man, we time it like every 48 hours so that we're not flooding people and getting lost, right? And I make sure we do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays and the Friday before the show, once at 11:30, but right before people are going on their lunch break, so it'll be fresh in their feed when they look at their phones. Or Saturday mornings when they're having a cup of coffee and what am I going to do tonight? You know, like the timing of those posts to try to beat the algorithm, and then the good old calling friends and family. And if we're playing a show in Tampa, I'm going to text all my boys in Tampa and be like, yo, we're coming up to your neck of the woods. Like, we'd love to see you out. You know, we're playing Ybor Saturday night and we haven't played in a while. You know, and just getting that out there. I do miss the days of, you know, printing up 500 flyers and getting in my car and just driving around to every single music store in town and dropping off a
right.
stack, right? Because what was cool about that is if you drop flyers off at a music store, there's a bunch of people in a building that love music.
Right.
And they're at the counter buying music, and they see that there's bands coming, because everybody remember the counter was full of shows that were happening that
Oh,
weekend,
yeah.
you know?
I would ride my bike to Sound Exchange.
Yep,
And
and
get
just
the
post
punk rock
flyers.
That's how we used to find out about shows.
That was the network.
You know, that was
like
the
you go
network.
to go to Boogie Woogie and find out who's
Yeah,
playing that
dude.
Saturday. But you know, I mean, that's past. But I don't think there is any way to get people to your shows. You just do everything, and you throw out the widest net you can possibly throw, because you might pick up a few attendees from Facebook, and you might pick up a few attendees from Instagram, and pick up a few attendees from texting people, and just
So you are, unfortunately, for want of a better way of putting it, you're kind of bullied into a spray or pray method.
yeah,
Basically.
Kind of.
yeah.
If you want people to go to your show.
Is all I can say. So I want to switch gears just a little bit, because the bigger people, the bigger bands, the bigger venues, they're all kind of subject to all of these same things too, just on a larger scale, which Paul is used to. And we touched on COVID a little bit. I'm interested in all of your opinions about what going to shows is like now, because all of us are music fans too, maybe first. Now going to shows post-COVID stupid expensive.
Sold out.
You sell out fast.
Sell out a lot.
Lots of bands are pissed because of the ways they're being paid or not paid.
Mm-hmm.
So Paul, let me start with you. How have you been feeling about going to shows?
It's hard for them not to feel like work now, you know? Like, when I was playing shows, still, I mean, it's like I'm at so many shows nonstop. I had one show that stands out this whole year, really, and it was Prof at Janice.
Nice.
Yeah. That I was in the crowd raging, like, just
Got to be
letting
a
loose.
fan.
Yeah, I just got to be a fan for that, and it was so good. But I don't really get to have those moments a lot anymore, unfortunately. Like, we did Ludacris on Friday night, and don't get me wrong, I watched his set and enjoyed every minute of it. But it's still not the same when I'm standing there with a radio on, you know, just waiting for everybody to leave so I can tear the place down. But
Right.
Shows, unfortunately, seem like work even when I'm there not working, if that makes sense. Because I'm usually promoting anyway, so one way or the other, I'm there for a reason, you know?
Right. What about you, Brandon? What do you think about how expensive shows have become?
It's gnarly. I don't mind. Like, if I like the band, I'll pay whatever. But the thing.
What do you mean, though? What do you mean? Quantify that. Because, I mean, I wanted to go see Depeche Mode in Orlando, and it would have cost me $2,000. Would you have paid $2,000 to see your Depeche Mode?
Depends how much you like them, dude.
Depeche Mode's one of my favorite bands.
Have you ever seen them before?
Yes, lots of times.
Okay, then that's.
Do you have $2,000 to spend?
Yeah, I do.
I did, but I still didn't want to. I mean, I don't know
Still
if
hurts.
my backside could have recovered from that.
Dude, for sure.
That's a lot.
I don't know, man. I mean, if I've seen a band before, then it'll be a debate. But like, if I've never seen them and I really want to see them, I'm gonna go.
Well, let me ask you this: what's the most you've paid for a ticket post-COVID,
Oh shit.
and who was it?
I'd have to think about that. I think.
What about you, Cassie? You know?
Well, I mean, so the thing that it's not even about the cost for me, it's about like the bots getting in there, or like the scalpers getting in there and buying tickets, like Sleep Token.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen them twice. Luck, I'm very, very thankful. But like, you got to be ready. You got to be
Now
on
they've
it.
blown up so much.
Yeah.
Well, and I've loved them since like the first stuff they put out, but it's like, and they finally came to the U.S. It's like, yes, but like everybody, you know, it just sucks for the people that really love the music to like not be able to get there at 10 a.m. and be on the phone and be ready, and then like, you know, the tickets are going and then they're jacking up the price. Like Taylor Swift toured the same thing. It's just. It's rough. It's like, when did this start happening? Like, how did we get to this point?
Well, that's what I want to ask you, Ben, because I know you're a major live music fan. You'll travel, you'll see it all. So I wanted you to explain a little bit about your ethos about going to shows post-COVID, and what do you think about the cost of it now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you and I talked earlier. You know, I've always loved live music, obviously. But having it taken away during COVID really made me realize how much I loved it. So I just kind of had a personal revelation coming out of COVID that I'm never going to miss a show again if I can't, right?
Right. I think a lot of people thought.
I just did, you know, you're talking about like extreme, what would you do to go to a show? I just did the most extreme thing I've ever did. And, you know, Postal Service and Death Cab for Cutie playing Transatlanticism front to back, and they weren't coming anywhere near Florida,
Right.
but they were in Seattle. So I bought a plane ticket to Seattle and called a friend up that lives in Seattle, and you know, bought the ticket and went to Seattle to see him play.
That's a great
No question.
Because I was like, I've, you know, I don't know if I'll ever see Postal Service again. So like, it's now or never, and I'm gonna regret not going. But on the other side of that coin, we're talking about how expensive it is to go see shows. Do you know what shows are not expensive?
Shows at Oscura?
Shows, local band shows, you know, all these bands that we're, you know, paying so much to see. Like, I promise you 10 years ago, you could have seen Sleep Token in a pub for
right.
$8, right?
Exactly.
Now, how awesome is it to spend all of your time spending $5 or $10 to see the next Sleep Token or the next Death Cab for Cutie? And so the amount of quote unquote big shows I go to are extremely rare. except festivals. Like I like going to festivals, right? I'll go to Furnace Fest and Gainesville Fest and stuff like that, because for, seeing 80 bands for $300 is a pretty good deal, right? But other than that, big bands, I don't go too much. I go to local shows over and over and over and over again.
But just to play devil's advocate, that's all a relative scale. Your $5 and $10 local shows were $3 in free shows 10, 15 years ago. And your cost of touring as a big band especially was infinitesimal compared to what it is now. Your cost of operating this building has inflated tenfold 10, 15 years ago. So whether or not a local show is only $5 or $10, relatively speaking, it's still more expensive than it would have been. And we're still now dealing with an economy where you gotta all of this competition for the $5 and $10 and all of this competition for the attention, and it's almost harder to get attention at the bottom of the ladder, obviously, than it is at the top. So, everything's cost has gone up. All your liquor costs have gone up, your food costs have gone up. We're all dealing with these higher costs. So, you can manage that somewhat more affordably at $5 or $10, but how does something like Reggae Rise Up have to manage that, where you're having to pay bands a lot because they're bringing in semis, you got vendors out the ass, the expenditures went through the roof post-COVID.
And it's a gamble for you guys, man. That would keep me up at night.
Every show is a gamble, and I can tell you that Reggae Rise Up pays the bands top money. Like
Right.
they're not hustling these bands. Those bands are getting paid to be there.
Well, I know that a lot of the higher ups at Reggae Rise Up have some of a similar ethos to Ben in that they really
Definitely.
want to help that community and have.
Oh, they built that. It went from being a one-day couple bands to now we're doing 4 days. And I can tell you that every time we do a show, we're in meetings every week making the next show better, trying to make it better than the last one that we did. And everything is going up.
Right.
Literally everything.
Yeah.
Everything costs more, so it's hard to not, not every show is a W, unfortunately, and no matter what, you still got to pay for it. So
And you still got to throw the next show.
But a lot of it is also building the brand at the same time. So, a show could be a loss for us, but could still be a win for the brand. If you're trying to build something bigger,
And Brandon, how have you guys handled those cost increases? I know back in the day you'd spend hours and days and weeks in the studio and things. How have you guys tried to mitigate being a band?
Just gotta balance it out, bro. If something costs X or whatever, you just gotta grind that much harder on the side to earn that money to make it happen. Just gotta make it happen. And if it sucks, it sucks. But in my experience, like, money comes and goes all the time. If you just do the work and put the work in and make it happen, that's it. Kind of just have to bite the bullet.
So how do you navigate the things like, I can't imagine the first videos you recorded and the last videos you recorded cost the same thing.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. Just save. Plan, basically. Know that we're going to shoot a video in a month or two or whatever, and then just work and stack our pockets and then make it happen.
But you're not sitting there thinking to yourself, oh shit, this video costs us X dollars more. Now we're going to have to raise the cost of the merch X across the board.
No, not at all. Not at all.
just play more shows.
You just play more shows. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it, really.
Yep.
Try to emotionally remove that perspective from money and try not to just let it fester. Like, oh yeah, fuck, we spent $6,000 on that music video or whatever. Boo hoo.
Right.
Just is what it is. Now we got a banging ass music video.
Well,
and we
right.
can use that to pitch
Yeah, you
us
do.
whatever, you know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So-
and that's the thing, the money is, regardless if we're gonna start a fucking lemonade stand or be a band, the money is gonna be the limiting issue. You know what I
Theoretically, yeah,
mean?
theoretically.
And now you have to make such more of an investment because everything costs more. Like Paul said, it doesn't matter if it's a toilet paper for your rehearsal space.
Yeah.
Everything costs more.
Everything does.
So I'm curious how you navigate that, because back in the day it used to be, okay, we can play a ton of shows and we'll have guarantees. Not every club's gonna pay like Ben does. Especially when you guys go out on the road to markets that you haven't been in. How do you navigate that?
I guess go in with no expectations, but go in with the mindset that it could be a total wash, and just accept the fact that it could be a total wash, and you might lose a lot of money, or the tires might blow up, or whatever. Something might go out, or our merch gets stolen, or some shit like that. It's just it is what it is. You just got to grind and just do it.
And Cassie, what's your mentality towards that? It's all same thing. We're just pushing to the next level, and whatever it costs to get there. That's how we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I never feel like, oh man, I just like wasted all this money or like or spent.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I'm like, I want to do it, and I love that. Like, I can put my money toward that, and then we have something as amazing as like our music videos that Todd did. It's something that I'm so thankful for. I'm like, that's what it is. You don't have a label paying for stuff. You do it yourself, and it builds character.
Yeah.
So does it seem kind of ironic that I asked the question how everyone's managing this raised cost, and the answer is the people who could manage it are kind of having to make everyone eat it, and the people that can't really manage it are eating it?
Everybody's eating it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's kind of weird that the onus is on the underground to eat it.
Yep.
But that's how I guess you got to come up. There's still no stopping that.
Mm.
So what are some of the things that you see that you're enthusiastic about the way that music is going? What are some of the changes that you've seen now that Reggae Rise Up is a 4-day instead of a 2-day festival? What are some of the things you're excited about seeing, not the pain in the ass cost increases?
Just how many awesome bands we're able to bring to the area. And I love watching bands start out in the scene and grow and grow and grow and become a big player in the scene. I think, you know, being able to put those bands in front of big crowds is, you know, there's nothing better than playing to a crowd, a couple thousand people out there, you know, vibing. So
That's got to give you the warm fuzzies, I guess, when you put somebody in that position, huh?
dude, there's no better feeling than like getting off of work, working all day, and like going up in the lift and just looking out and just seeing a sea of 20,000 people out there just vibing and having a great time, and knowing that I played a part in making that happen.
Hell yeah.
Not just for the band, but for the crowd, you know, like for both sides of that.
What about you, Ben? How is that for you on this scale?
I cannot tell you how many times I've been in here. Obviously, I come in here as just an attendee a lot as well. And I cannot tell you how many nights I have just sat up against the back wall, like whatever band is playing is just going off, and I'm looking at 150 people just having the time of their life and singing along. I get emotional about it every single time. It's like, man, for how much we grind it out here and try to make ends meet and make this place a success, at least every other month I sit along the back wall and go,
Fuck
this
yeah.
is why we're doing this.
That's
This is why we do this, you know, is having and more importantly, being able to see that with young bands that are just finding their sound, right? Because we can all agree that there's like, for a long time, there's been nowhere for a young band who's writing their own music to cut their teeth
Right.
and to grow their following, and a place where they can grow.
Yeah, that became a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and that was the real onus behind creating this venue, was because there was nowhere for original musicians in Braden, you know, south of the Skyway to grow. And how many bands will the world miss out on because they didn't get a chance to, you know, cut their teeth somewhere? They just gave up because there was
And
nowhere to
there's
go.
a zillion bands they get inundated by.
Yeah.
You know?
So what about you, Brandon? What are you excited for in this changed world?
Dude, to be honest, I mean, talk about like being inundated in all the music and everything that's coming out now. Like, there's a lot of it that's, you know, but there's a lot of it that's really, really good. Like the accessibility.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing. So the more that's being produced, the more good that's being produced. Like, I'm stoked about the accessibility of it all, especially for the younger generations. Like coming in here and catching a show and like seeing kids that are like, they're like, yeah, I got high school in the morning. Like coming to see a show here on Thursday or something, and they're like, yeah, I'm 17, like I gotta go to school tomorrow morning or something like that. That's cool as hell. And they're up here killing it. And they're professional. They want to be professional. Like the standards have elevated, for sure. I mean, to a degree. But the kids that are taking it seriously like that, have elevated their standards. They're taking it seriously, and it's really cool to see that from such a young age.
Yeah, well,
I'm stoked about
that's one thing that's kind of messed me up, and I'm curious how you guys land on this one. How talented the youth is now.
Yeah.
It's thanks to YouTube and things.
It's scary,
like,
dude.
And when you said accessibility, I thought that's what you were talking about until you mentioned physical
No,
accessibility.
it is.
But it's like now the keys to the universe are so accessible. If you want to know how to play your favorite song, you can.
Yeah.
You know?
Immediately.
So what do you notice about that in some of the young bands?
I guess you'll see, like, there was a time in, like, extreme music or heavy music where everyone was just like, I want to play, it's still kind of going on, I want to play the nastiest, dirtiest breakdown, gross, but there's such a low ceiling to something like that in terms of, like, creativity and, like, genuinely being,
It's hard to stand out, too.
It is, man. So I see that a lot, and then, like, play as many notes as fast as possible for whatever. It's kind of just like you're showboating at that point. There's not really any, like, emotion behind it, it seems, from my perspective. So
Right.
that's kind of a drawback in terms of accessibility, in terms of, like, anybody can do this now. But I'd say that's about it.
What about you, Ben? What do you see? You see some of these bands that come in young and they blow your mind?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, we see both sides of the coin here, right? As many bands as we come through here, but there's some that are just really, really get you stoked. I mean, you know, I'll call one out. We had a band here a couple times from the area called Youth Antics. Young kids, totally blown away by their sound, their work ethic, how they conduct themselves. You know, on and off the stage, like, you know, meeting them and playing with them kind of got me psyched after the show. I'm like, yeah, like there are still kids coming up. You know, we don't need to be the jaded old, like, nobody knows what it's like anymore. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, these guys get it, man. They get it. And it's really encouraging. You know, and of course, on the other side of the coin, there's also, you know, the ones who just don't put any time into their craft and just, you know, show up and don't try to work and it's now. It was 20 years ago. It was 40 years ago. There's always both sides of the coin.
Right. Yeah. But I think one of the things that I've seen kind of different with the young bands compared to 20 years ago is they're a lot more responsible. It's like 20 years ago when we were on stages, everyone was fucked up the instant we hit the door. You know what I mean? Like,
You hit the door before you left.
yeah, exactly.
The warehouse.
It seems like there's a lot more professionalism in the younger bands. Have any of you noticed that?
Absolutely.
And I guess I chalk Fiends up to that a bit too. You know, now that you guys are in a second leg, maybe
Oh,
maybe
dude.
Devil Gone Public days you were. That was a different story.
You've
but
seen some shit.
yeah.
Yeah. I think
So-
everybody kind of goes through that. Every creative, you know, it's cool, like the rock star mentality. Everybody wants to be like that. When you start out, you're a kid,
Yeah.
you're young and feeble, you just want to party and all that shit. But yeah, I know.
But now there's more bigger bands that aren't so fucking reckless.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. A lot of the bigger bands aren't. The reckless isn't cool anymore.
It's not
you
cool.
know?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
cool anymore.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love that
that's
too.
That's an exponentially good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely provided some better music and
100%.
better live shows.
Yep.
So let's drill down that one for a minute. I know, Paul, you said your favorite show this year was Prof.
Oh,
Shout out
so
Prof.
good.
Minneapolis.
He's gonna be playing Reggae Rise Up. He didn't get on Florida, but it's coming up.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna be sick.
Brandon, what was your favorite thing you've seen recently?
I'm trying to think.
And you don't get to say Postal Service.
No.
I saw you thinking you were gonna get away easy back there.
Dude, I mean, every show I've gone to this year was dope, but it's always the ones that are super last minute that I'll catch whatever. I was on the road on Halloween. I was driving up to see some family, and I was just somewhere in Virginia, and I just had an extra hour to chill or whatever. I was looking at my thing. I was like, what am I gonna do tonight? I could just go to the spot and be where I'm supposed to be tonight. But I was looking at shows, and I looked up this show. It was like a Halloween show. It was like a stacked hardcore lineup. A bunch of bands that I was so stoked to see, like a band that hasn't toured for like 4 years.
Nice.
And they were headlining shit, and got a ticket. It was 2 blocks down the road. I chilled, and I went by myself. And every band on that lineup was a band I wanted to see that I hadn't seen before. So that was a treat.
So sometimes a surprise makes a good show.
100%. Last minute surprise.
What about you, Cassie?
So, my favorite live experience this year was at Crowbar. Jordan's other band, Knife Rituals, had their last show with their vocalist, guitarist, Ann. And they were playing with some other bands. All the bands were phenomenal, and there were some younger bands that just killed it, and everybody was so different, but everyone, like, the vibe was so good. And our friend Justin Reed was running sound, and he's from the band Holly Glenn. He is amazing. I could
That's the
hear
second
everything.
time I've heard that today, so shout out him.
Shout out to Holly Glenn.
Oh, I
Justin's
love Holly
awesome.
Glenn. We love Justin so much.
We're gonna have to get Justin on the show then.
But Knife Rituals, just like I'm like crying. You know, it was just it was beautiful to be able to hear them, like just hear everybody's parts, and like it was just like the vibe was so good, and there were so many people there that cared. That was my favorite show of the year.
So sometimes it's the sentimental and a family vibe that can
Oh
make
yeah.
a show.
Oh yeah.
All right, what about you, Ben?
Trick answer. It was Furnace Fest. Went to Birmingham, and 3 acts really stood out. There's a post-hardcore band from the UK called Casey.
Oh, dude.
I was just speechless during their whole set. And then catching Seosin with Anthony Green was absolutely incredible. And then the surprise band, who I had never heard of, but I made a point to go see, was the Callous Dowboys, who just
They're crazy.
absolutely, like, that was a
Dowboys.
performance.
They're wild, bro.
They were, and those 3 bands over that weekend were just stood out to me.
What do you think about, and this is kind of my own horse in this race, the way I'm gonna couch this, so forgive me. What do you think about festivals kind of killing tours? Because it used to be that you would see bands on tour all summer, but now they just tour the festival circuit. Now, if you want to see bands like that, they're too small to afford to be able to tour on their own, so they have to play these festivals because the cost of touring on your own has gone through the roof. So, I guess there's no debate in that festivals have cannibalized tours. It's just how much you feel they have and what you think that means.
I think they're still touring, but I mean, a lot of the bands, well, in our scene, are doing summer tours, and then hitting the festivals
Yeah.
along in that
Yeah.
tour.
Yep.
But they're also doing shows, amphitheater shows, and the bigger names.
Right, the bigger names.
But I still see a lot of the bands in the reggae scene touring a lot.
But you have to have, like, what, the Janus-sized festivals to live off of?
I mean, definitely festivals definitely pay more money than one-off shows at a bar in Cincinnati.
Yeah, of course. But you can't, it's hard to make a career off festival shows unless you're one of those bigger bands who's gonna get paid,
Right.
high 5 or 6 figures,
Yeah. I still see a lot of the bands crushing, like just going out there and just, burning the candle at both ends. Or what do you say? Burning the midnight oil.
Yeah, both. Either burning the candle with
Till the wheels
midnight
fall
oil,
off.
Yeah, until the wheels fall off.
listening to Midnight Oil,
But you gotta build your fan
burning,
base.
burning the bed.
You gotta build that fan base.
I'm here all week.
I got you.
What about you, Brandon? You see a lot of smaller shows, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, that's my preferred method of band viewing. But like the festival thing is cool, bro. From a perspective of a festival goer. But like the Blue Ridge Rock Festival or whatever, where every fucking band is a band you want to see.
Yeah.
And they're only playing for like 20, 25
Right.
minutes or whatever. It's like
And then they don't let you in because of bad weather.
that shit was crazy.
Rip.
But I mean,
And those festivals are actually the I would say the biggest perpetrators of cannibalizing because
Dude, yeah,
they get so many
yes.
bigger bands and pack them into these horribly tight slots.
yes.
And then they won't go on a tour, or you have to drive another 2 hours to catch where their next stop is going to be, where you're actually going to get to see them play their set. So that's kind of the other side of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky with that. They
And
make it
short
like
sets
too
suck.
accessible. No, exactly. And then you got to run to the other side to catch the last 10 minutes of your other
Other
favorite band. Yeah.
So is it? I hate to say it, but is it somewhat widely accepted that really the only good part about a festival is the quantity?
I think that's what it's.
I mean, the bang for
Looking
your
like.
buck is pretty damn good usually.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you're selling
Good
tickets,
food.
do you tend to sell more full weekend passes, or it's more daily and you see people just coming for their favorite headliner?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is a good question. I'm not really too sure which one does better, to be honest with you.
Because that would kind of suss out who's in it for the plethora of the whole thing and who's just coming to see.
I feel
their
like
favorite
we get a
team.
lot of people who are coming for the whole weekend, for the whole thing.
Yeah,
I feel
and
like-
that's kind of the way you are when you go to festivals. Yeah, Ben, you're trying to take in as much as you can, even
Oh
if
yeah,
it's stuff you're not familiar
it's an
with.
experience. you know.
So I guess that's
A
one
lot of
thing.
people, because they're traveling, they're traveling, they're staying in for Reggae Rise Up, Florida, they're staying in St. Pete for the weekend. They're coming to the show. They might come at a different time depending on who's playing throughout the day, but usually the person that likes, Slightly Stupid likes the Marleys too. So, like the headliners bring, so they'll go hang out in St. Pete and, have St. Pete fun and then come to the festival later in the day or whatever,
And part of the fun of festivals as a festival goer is to discover new bands in the lulls between the
Yep.
bands you do want to see. Like, how many of us
Sure.
discovered some great bands because they just happened to
yeah.
be playing at a festival when you had nothing to do? You're like, well, I'm going to
Yeah.
go check out this band I never heard of, and then they blow you away.
We always try to have really good food, really good bars, and try to create a vibe. It's been getting better. St. Pete's so nice, though. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you go wrong?
Right. Well, we have such a conducive area
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wonder how much the festival scene really does help that scenario you're talking about. Because a lot of the smaller bands that they play early in the day when there's less than half your headline crowd there. You know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like, or it seems to me like, the festival thing is only working out best for the festival promoters. It's never working out best for the bands. I don't know of a band that I caught on a side stage that blew up and blew me away. So if you guys have that experience, I'd love to hear it. I always end up seeing bands that are totally essentially playing for free, filling up time slots and never fucking go anywhere. And that's partly why I asked you before, what do you see about the bands that make it from there? Because
Right.
usually the side stage bands stay relegated there till no one hears from them ever again.
Yeah.
And they're just there to make noise until or Stephen Marley's on stage, or until Slightly Stupid's on
Right.
stage, or until the biggest band at Furnace Fest, whoever headlined that's on stage. You know what I mean?
Well, that could be true too, but also, you're also building your brand, so people, when they just having your name on the flyer next to all these other bands,
Yeah, but that
it's gonna
puts us
draw
back to
attention.
spray and pray. Is
Right.
really the only way to be a successful musician now is to fucking lick every boot you possibly can? Is that what it's come to?
Well, I mean, that or be just an amazing prodigy, but you have to be realized, one way or the other. You have to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
Willing to boot lick?
No, recognized or figured out. Like you have to be. Someone's gonna have to run into you one day or another and see you
Yeah.
playing somewhere.
True. I'm just wondering how much having one of these low-level slots in a big show is doing that versus having an awesome slot in a show in a room like this.
Well, you have to get 200 people into this room.
Right.
I can tell you every festival that we played with, there was more than 200 people watching my band.
Yeah,
Even
no, I
in the
know that.
beginning stages,
Right, but the yin to that yang would be you had 200 people at a festival and maybe 5 of them were actually there to see you, where if you had 200 people in this room, likely 195 of them were here to see
Right.
you. So where's the point of diminishing returns for those types of bands, I wonder? That's why I asked. Do you
Right.
find that you sell a lot more 4-day tickets because then you'd think that those are the people that would be open to finding those new things, or not just
Right.
so interested in seeing the main act? And then if you had the people who just buy day passes, well, you know damn right well they don't care about the side stage.
I really do think we do sell more multi-day tickets than we do.
Well, it's a better bang for the buck too, yeah?
Yeah,
There's always some
definitely.
discount
You
for
know,
that.
They're even doing hotel packages and stuff now. You can
Oh,
get your
nice.
own hotel and everything,
Yeah.
all inclusive.
That's right.
Yeah,
Sweet.
so takes all the guessing out of it.
Right. And that's huge for the surrounding area too.
Well, they track all those numbers. They track everything. All the tourism money. They know exactly how much money is coming into the city.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah. If I told you how much we brought it to St. Pete every year, you'd blow your mind.
Yeah, of course. 'Cause it adds
Yeah,
up
that's
insanely
secondary
quickly.
spending.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's some of the draw for festivals too. They're way better for the area than it is to have
Definitely.
some like Janus type venue.
Right.
Even if Janus does shows every weekend, they don't pull in those kind of
No,
tax dollars.
Not anywhere near. Yeah,
No.
tourism's huge, especially if we're a tourism state. We're driven by tourism.
Yeah.
Most of us have all worked in a bar or restaurant
Yep.
in this area. I mean, we're in a bar. And,
Yeah. Well, speaking of being in Florida, that's one of the things that's unique down here. It is hard to tour to here, and it is hard to tour from here
right?
because we're down here in the middle of nowhere. So Ben, how do you mitigate that when you're trying to get bigger bands, your lower level nationals to kind of play here? Bradenton's not necessarily a known market, but we're in an area with a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have the answer for that. I mean, you're 100% right in what you're saying, right? It's hard for bands to tour down here, right? But on the opposite side of that coin, I firmly believe that's why so many amazing bands have come out of Florida.
That's an interesting
Because
observation.
we're not getting bands coming here, so we create our own scene, right? And we create our own thing, and that's why you have the Against Me's and the Hot Water Musics, because nobody was coming to town, so we just made our own scene, right? We made our own music community. But, we here at Oscura have had a challenge with Tampa and St. Pete, right? Because they're more established music scene and more established and long-standing music venues there. And we're the new kid on the block. But, I'm happy to say that have been steadily creating a reputation of a place that bands love coming to and a room that bands love playing. So Oscura is becoming a destination for bands. Plus, those bands from up north are wanting to make new fans down here.
Right.
So we're getting a decent amount of people coming from over the bridge, attendees, bands obviously as well, but people actually coming to shows from over the bridge rather than, staying in St. Pete or Tampa. And we're also exposing those St. Pete, Tampa bands or Orlando bands to the Bradenton, Sarasota crowd, because we're pairing them with local talent here. We're trying to expose both ways, right? Like we in transit goes and plays shows up north so that we can hopefully hop on a bill with a more established Tampa band and make some fans in Tampa so that the next time we come with Tampa, we've picked up a few more fans and a few more fans, right? You know how it goes.
Yeah.
And we'll bring them down here, whichever band was gracious enough to host us up there, we'll make a point to bring them down here and expose them to some of our base down here.
So it really is still more about trying to have bands or assets that are more in your proximity because we are kind of far from fucking everything.
Yeah. Music is
Except
hard,
other
man.
Florida
I mean,
cities.
we got to be there for each other. We got to help each other out.
What about you, Brandon? How do you navigate coming from Florida where Fiends could really exist and tour around here because we've got such a diehard metal community? You got to break out from a place where you could be easily isolated.
I mean, I love Florida, man. Just playing around here for the past decade. All the DIY shows, all the house shows, all the ins and outs, the shitty venues, the warehouse venues, all the weird shows. There really is a great scene here.
Which almost makes it a little more challenging to break out of it because you can
yeah.
exist here at a level.
In a sense, you really, really can. But you gotta, if you want to get bigger, you gotta go travel. You gotta go do your thing and break out.
Well, how do you manage that? How do you navigate that? When you're in such an isolated spot where you could just be a metal band,
Yeah.
do you try to find another metal community, or are you literally just going where you can afford close enough and make a circle, and hopefully we can round up some cats?
It all depends on networking, really, and where you want to be. Our Fiends mentality was all right, Florida Southeast region. Focus on the Southeast region for now, and then regionally.
And that was just strictly
regionally.
because of proximity.
Precisely. It's just a slow burn, bro. Theoretically, with a big release like that, an album release, you want to do it. You don't want to blow your load and promote to Japan when you can't go to Japan and play the shows. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we started focusing on regional sections of the United States and kind of are just piecing it together there.
but you're still, I hate to say it, but known as a Florida metal band. You still wave the
100%.
flag as your Florida metal band.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
And Cassie, for you guys, you're a little bit more like non-local, as it were, right? Like you don't necessarily hang your hat on being a Florida artist, do you?
Not really. I mean, we are proud to be from Florida, and we do love it here, and
Right.
we always get like great turnouts, great people. But we've never played out of the state.
But you kind of market All Hail the Queen as like a not a Florida thing, it's more like a global thing.
Right, we do. And like Brandon was saying, like we have focused on like Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota, Bradenton area, but then like once we started playing, you know, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, other places, we kind of like broadened like to regional areas. Like we're like thinking, okay, if when we tour, we want to probably just like stay to the southeastern states, really. So that's where we're marketing to, and we're kind of like checking out other bands in that area and like making friends with people and talking about it and just trying to keep it, you know, there's only so much you could do, so it's really smarter to use your time wisely and like focus on an area that you know you're going to be going to.
So do you ever look at like your YouTube analytics and see where like your viewers are at, or your Spotify analytics and see where they're at?
It's
and
pretty cool.
try to do that?
Yeah, like we do have people that are like, okay, there's some people in Japan, there's some people in Brazil, there's some people in Scotland, but honestly, it's mostly people in Florida. Then we have for some reason a really great base in like North Carolina, and then like New York. But it's interesting to see. It's interesting to look it up, you know. We would like to get there.
Do you guys for Reggae Rise Up ever employ anything like that, where you're looking at back end analytics and you can see where your target market may be?
I'm sure, yeah, definitely.
And I imagine James is doing that.
Oh, we all kind of do it a little bit. It's very interesting to see the places, and it's very kind of interesting to see it fluctuate from place to place. It's really interesting.
It was funny because I just moved to St. Pete, and my Spotify rap said, "Dude, with my music taste, I belong in St. Petersburg, Florida." I was like, holy shit! I just moved here.
Mine told me Portland, and I
got
said
Portland
nah,
too.
bro.
Yeah,
You got Portland too?
I got Portland too.
Well, if everything goes bust for us, we'll just go to
Let's just
Portland.
go to Portland. Yeah.
Just be two dudes in a one bedroom.
Let's make it happen.
2 dudes, 1 bedroom.
Oh boy, oh boy.
The grind.
I think it'd be good. Yeah. Nobody out there watching this can steal that idea. So,
That's
what about you, Ben? I mean, I know for the band you guys can target, and I imagine that Matt's got his finger on the pulse of that a little bit, but can you target market for the venue at all, or do you it's just solely your target marketing through the publications you know get to people who could be your target market?
No, Matt LaPerch, our events and sound guy, is extraordinarily intentional about the promoting in the events and the online targeting, very very specifically to the area, to the age group. We have in our operating budget targeted ads that we spend money on every week. For the shows when we book a band. Part of the money we spend when we book a band is to target that show and to pay that. Obviously we're having conversations about how it gets lost in the algorithm and how it all gets washed. So it does to some extent, but
Right.
We still intentionally, to what extent we can, we do.
Well, that's where the nature of the targeting
Yeah.
comes in, because otherwise the broad stroke is your only choice. So do you find that works? Do you think that helped have things like your metal shows have the metal community here?
I don't know if it's trackable. Obviously, we're not like asking people, how did you hear about us when you're coming through the door?
Well, that's
It's
funny
more
you should
of
say
a-
that too, because
The growth.
in my experience in other states, California specifically, when you come to a show, especially if there's a cover,
Yeah.
they'll ask you who you came for.
Or how did you hear about it?
Yeah, right at the door before they let you in.
Yeah.
Partly because some of the show's pay scales will be divvied by exactly how many people they drew, and partly because the venue is absolutely trying to figure out why the fuck you're here.
So to that extent, yes. When people come to see a multi-band show, who we have working the door, we'll ask, who are you here to see tonight?
Okay, cool.
And we will keep a tally of that so that most nights it's pretty even. But if we notice one night, like one band's, attendance is off the chart, we know that this is a great band to have back, right? But what I was more addressing is when we send out those targeted Facebook invites and, social media posts and things like that, we're not asking when they came up, did you find out about the show through Facebook or through Instagram or through our newsletter or through Creative Loafing or whatever? We're not asking them how they found out about the show. We are asking who they're here to see, though.
Would that be something you would want to know, or it's just kind of doesn't matter because the budget is what it is?
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. And I think we're even, placing less onus on that right now because I think the organic growth we meant to accomplish through it is doing its job now. We're becoming that destination or that place that people know. Obviously we've only been open a year and a half, so we're still trying to make our mark on the world and make our reputation, but it's the needle is 100% going in the right direction.
So I guess one of the common threads or morals of the story is, regardless of which one of the four of you that it is some of the old school tactics still work as well as they always did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe since we got so far from that, we're invariably circling back to it. Whether or not it's the way street teams are being handled or promoting face-to-face, targeting specific people, or being a more favorable venue for artists. That used to be a thing too. I remember when bands used to get a cut of the bar. Forget, that doesn't happen anymore, right? I mean, you guys have any experience with that?
Promoters do, but not bands.
Yeah, right.
But most of the bands are very hands off when it comes to these shows. They have agents and
The bigger bands.
right.
But you had
managers who
Summer
are
Survivor gigs where you got bar cuts at one point, or no?
Not really bar cuts. We got paid more if it was a busy night, but we never got like a percentage of the bar.
We did back in the day. It was a great thing.
Yeah. It's always nice.
So you've never had that in Fiends?
I think like once or twice. Back
You
in the
don't
day or
do that
something.
here ever, I gather?
No,
that's a dead thing.
It's hard to track,
Yeah, that's where all the money's made at the venue, or
Right.
at the festival is alcohol sales.
Right.
It's the money maker.
Right,
Everybody's drinking.
right.
Maybe not everybody, but
Yeah.
most people.
Well, and it's huge profit.
Yeah.
But that was just one of those things like you said, we used to have nights where, maybe we were getting 2% or whatever, but if we really packed the place, they just hit us
Right.
off with money. It's not like that anymore. That's kind of where we started, all of the things that have changed.
All right.
So let's do something fun and we'll get out of here on it. This is the question I get to ask everybody, and I know I've already asked all of you this. The way we consume the music has changed so much. We don't have CDs and liner notes. Maybe we get a vinyl and read that, but most of us are listening to stuff digitally. Everything was released on Friday. I want to ask you, do you feel like anything, and I don't want to get a curmudgeon conversation going because that's not really it. It's more of a
Why did you
timeline
look at
thing.
me when you said that?
Because I did this to you last time, and I already know what happened. But how much do you feel like some of the magic of being a music consumer has been lost? Or how much do you think that we're actually are we at a loss or a gain? Because now we don't get some of the special tactile shit we used to have. But now, like James was saying when I had you guys on, you can set aside a couple hours to listen to music and not have to pay, other than your subscription, to hear it. So if it's garbage, I didn't care that I bought a CD that I hate every song on it. So what's your feelings about the state of consuming music now? Do you think we're at a plus or a minus or a push?
I don't know. Vinyl's, going pretty strong. I'd say I think the artists should make more money for their streams, but I think I really enjoy having all the music I could ever want to listen to in my pocket.
Even though someone's not really getting paid $2 square for it yet.
Yep. I mean, the question is, how much money did artists really make selling albums when they were
Shit
selling
tons.
albums? A
Absolute
lot, yeah.
fucking shitloads.
So
They backed up the Brinks truck to David Lee Roth's house and just fucking loaded the money out.
So So yeah, I don't know. I as a consumer love the streaming.
So you say we're at a plus.
I don't know if we are. No, I don't know. I'm gonna go with the
But
middle.
you're at a plus.
I'm at a plus.
Overall, no comment.
I'm
Brad's
happy.
at a plus.
I do miss. I used to love buying a CD and putting it in the CD player and opening it up and doing it and looking at the lyric book.
Yeah.
That was when the Tool, the Lateralis album had the little goggles on it. When you were like
Yes.
flipping
Oh,
through
yeah.
the pages. I fucking
That was
loved
10,000
that.
Days.
10,000 Days. That shit was great.
When Tool did the lenticular one,
Yeah.
sucking his own dick.
Yes, that was great. Yeah. I love shit like that too because it's art.
Yeah.
But it is nice being able to listen to whatever I want, whenever I want.
All right, Brandon, you get to go under the gun. Plus, minus, or push.
It's relative, man, but I think there's pros and cons to all of it. Like, I personally miss the magic of buying a CD, unwrapping that bitch, putting it in the CD player, and not touching a damn thing, and enjoying the magic of the record for the record. And now, I mean, what do they call it? Micro-consumerism? Or whatever it is nowadays? Like YouTube Shorts.
I don't know, but that's a good word for it.
It's like
if it isn't.
like YouTube Shorts and like TikToks and all that shit.
Yeah.
But I feel like the magic is now in the song as opposed to the record. It's not the same, in my opinion. But I think it's great. I mean, to listen to whatever music you want to at any given time. I remember LimeWire, bro. I broke like 3 computers downloading. But I miss the magic of like burning a CD and be like, oh, this is the metal CD. This is like the rap
making
CD.
your comps.
Dude, yes, the comps, man.
Who was the comp lord amongst all your friends?
Oh, for sure. The comps.
Okay,
songs
so
on the
what's
radio.
your final answer? Plus, minus, push.
Is it good or bad?
Where you think it is for the music industry? Us as consumers was my question.
As consumers, from a consumer standpoint, it's incredible because you can get whatever you want whenever you want.
So despite the loss of the magic of going through the CD, you think that the convenience makes plus.
If the music's good enough, if the music's magical enough, it'll speak for itself. But I personally just miss the magic of a CD.
All right, I won't say that's a non-answer.
What? Did I just skip around?
He's a push.
I skipped
That's
around the
it,
whole
Michelle.
thing.
I'm gonna let you get away with it.
All right.
All right, Cassie, your turn.
I honestly kind of feel the same way that Brandon does. It's kind of like relative because things are so different, and it's not necessarily bad. But like Jordan and I were talking earlier about like the magic of like having the CD or the vinyl or the tape in your hands, and seeing the artwork, and like with vinyl, it's great because like the artwork is bigger,
Yes.
and it usually comes with a really cool like booklet. That's badass.
Yeah,
But
the
it
vinyl
is.
resurgence is a plus.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
absolutely. And it's also really nice to have everything at your fingertips. It does make it harder, the fact that it's like all. I mean, it kind of feels sometimes like it's a popularity contest,
Right.
Like, or
Numbers
how
game, yeah.
great they are at like cheating the system. I don't know. There's some bands that I'm like, man, I don't know how they have so many followers.
Yeah.
But like, not to be
That's
a
facts.
jerk.
You can pay
No, but it's real. We all know it's real.
Just don't read the lyrics. But I don't know. It's just, as a consumer, it is really nice to be able to just access music and like listen to Spotify playlists and find new bands just like that. You used to have to listen to the radio and like just hope that you'd have to like wait around to hear a song. But now if you like have a craving for something, like it is there. It's at your fingertips. But I don't know. As a musician, I feel a little differently than I do as just like a person who's consuming the music.
Right. Yeah.
So,
that's the other. end
The
of it.
duality of it
Yeah.
is hard to pinpoint.
Right. All right, Ben, you're not a curmudgeon. Don't
Sounds
worry
like
about
a whole lot of curmudgeons at this table.
Like you say, you're not the grand curmudgeon. Don't worry, I am. I'll stay quiet.
I'll honestly say that it's a push because while we can all agree that especially the Spotify system is not fair to artists for compensation, like that's not even up for debate. We all know
No,
it.
yeah.
And even the other streaming services aren't that much better, right?
Right.
But
And they have such smaller user bases.
Right. But it is a plus that I personally get to experience so many more bands because there's so much out there. So I get exposed to so many new bands. And I think the reason it's a push or a wash is because, at least personally, I know at least of a dozen bands that I was exposed to through streaming because there was so many of them, and because I was exposed to them, I made sure I caught them when they came through town, and I spent money on a ticket, and I went to their show, and I bought their merch, and I supported them. And then I told my friends about the band, and then they went to go see the band, right?
Hell yeah.
So maybe we got ripped off by streaming, but maybe I have 4 people at my show buying a T-shirt because
That's true.
of it. So
And I
it's,
think that aspect gets lost a lot. And it kind of sucks that you got to pay the piper of Spotify to be your promoter, more or less. But that's the real win. I mean, that's the real win. If
Yeah.
you could get exposed to somebody you wouldn't and they wind up in the flesh and they buy your shirt and tell a friend, because word of mouth is without a doubt still the most powerful promotion.
But I still miss the romanticism of sitting down with an album and just focusing on those 12 songs for an hour, you know, and reading every lyric in the liner book. And because that was something that those artists, that group of 4 guys or, you know, 5 guys or whatever, gals, you know, they put a year and a half of their life into that art and sitting down and giving them the attention they deserve.
Plus, it employed art directors in a bigger way.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot different animal. It's, I guess I'll go along with it's a wash. But
So
I do miss that, and I guess you know, it's lucky for the younger generation. They're never going to hear that single on the radio or see that video on MTV over and over, and then buy the record and find out that was literally the only stitch of
The only good
music
song.
on it.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, they don't know what that's like. You're sitting there with this lyric book and you're in track 4 and you're like, damn, I wasted my $20.
Yeah.
I should have never rode my bike to the mall.
Done that.
Remember FYE where you could scan the thing
Yes.
and listen to anything you wanted in the store?
That was awesome.
That took moving out of my small town to get, though. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. You had to buy the record and pray.
Dang.
You know, that was it. I walked to the mall with a pocket full of change for a Michael Jackson album. I knew that was safe.
All killer, no filler.
Right. I swear to God, that's true. All right, so here's an easy, fun one. This is going to be it. Since we're talking about how we getting exposed to music and how we're finding what the experience is like, I want you guys to each, we'll go down the line like we have been, and each tell me what you're most into right now, where you found it, and we're going to do some word of mouth sharing where this music is at, since everybody here is clearly well into music and clearly tuned in to where the good tunes are at. So, Paul, what you been gracing those ears with?
Man, you know my number 1 was Prof, and
Yeah.
that came from you, sir.
Well, I'm glad that worked. I'm glad that worked out.
You sent me that. You said, you're really gonna like this guy, and I really do.
Prof is underground hip hop from the Midwest, so shout out Midwest hip hop for sure.
Milwaukee, baby. It's fucking sick.
So, Prof, word of mouth, like
Yep,
that.
Word of mouth.
Brandon, what about you?
I'm looking at my Spotify. I've been on some weird shit, bro.
I've been on some weird shit. I got into White Ward that I said to you. They're this group from the
crazy.
Ukraine.
They're crazy,
They're
bro.
so cool. They're like hard, super, super hard metal, but they got a guy that plays saxophone and it does all this atmospheric, really. Yeah, they're called White Ward. So shout out White Ward in Ukraine.
All right.
I've been into. Okay, don't judge me.
And I send that to him. I'm still word of mouth. I push my shit on everybody. Bro, I found this. It's cool. You'll like it.
Especially if you know they haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
It's always like, what do you think? What do you think?
All right. So what do you think?
A lot. Don't judge me, please.
There's no judgment. That's what Keep the Hotel Empty is. We're judgment
Bro,
free,
like
baby.
a lot of like Russian hard style, like crazy house.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Like some gabber house, like
Like
dirty,
some, like-
nasty house music you're talking?
yeah, like fucking warehouse at 5 a.m. shit.
Yeah.
That shit, and then a lot of ambient stuff too. Like hammock.
You might as well just hit both ends of the spectrum.
I eat everything. Yeah.
And how did you discover it? Just straight trolling on Spotify?
And mostly that's where I'll find my shit. I'll like go down the rabbit hole. I'll listen to like suggested for you or whatever, and it's totally just a clusterfuck of a bunch of different things. So I'll just click on some shit.
So the
listen,
curated playlist is a good spot for
Oh,
you.
I love them, man. I
Yeah,
love them.
they're
Yeah,
great.
my shit's good. It gives me good music, and the more you listen, the better it gets. You know, the more you expand your palette, like the better.
Yeah,
the
the
suggestions
better
get.
the curation from
Yeah,
there.
so-
Yeah, true that.
Been digging
Okay,
that.
so your answer is both ends of the electronic spectrum and the algorithm helped you.
Yes.
All right, Cassie, your turn.
So, like, the obvious is, like, you know, metal bands that I would, like, love to see my band play with one day. Like, we love Sleep Token, we love Spirit Box, Landmarks from France. They're fucking amazing. So sick, so sick. I get super hyped listening to Landmarks.
And how do you come across a French metal band?
They're on the playlists. Those playlists are like really great. But there's also the other end of the spectrum, which is more like my other band. Like, you know, we've got string instruments, and so like listening to Punch Brothers and Nickel Creek, and like Chris Thiele is like amazing. Also, you know, the band Rakish from Boston. I'm friends with the violinist. Just beautiful, like folky, but like really amazing instrumentalists and
Very cool.
songs
I'm
that
not
are
familiar with a
beautifully
single
written.
one of those bands.
Yeah,
So good.
yeah.
Good
Check out
shouting
Rakish.
out. Yeah, for sure. Ben, I know you got more music than
I've just
people
been listening to Fiends all year. Nothing but.
You don't have
You're
to
a
lie.
fiend.
You don't have to lie.
I think my surprise this year, I mentioned him earlier, I've just been listening to him a whole lot, is Casey.
The new
Just
shit is so good.
so good.
KC, like KC or KACY?
Casey.
CACY.
They're from the UK. I guess they're a post-hardcore band.
Yeah.
And then also stumbled across a band called Valley Heart, which I just keep going back to and really enjoy them. And then I was a little late to the party, but I also discovered Knuckle Puck this year, and they're just so much fun. So those are probably the three bands I've been hitting the most over the last 12 months.
And how did they come on your radar?
You know what? I go back. It's actually Furnace Fest. They all played Furnace Fest, and I was digging into like, I went and just listened to all the bands whose names I didn't know, like to check them out before I went to Alabama. And I hit these bands like, I don't know who these are, so I'm gonna go check them out. And like, most of the bands that I didn't know who they were on my way to Alabama ended up being my favorite shows of the festival.
Crazy.
That's cool.
Like, I went to go see these bands. That's why I bought my ticket.
Right.
But the bands that I love the most were the bands that I drove up. Like, I don't even know who these people are. I've never heard of them. And they ended up being my favorites.
So that's a
Oh,
good
yeah, that's
tactic.
dope,
If you're
yeah.
going to a festival show and you think you aren't going to like some of those opening acts, listen to them first.
Take
and
the
get
time
yourself
to
there.
listen to the bands that you don't know who they are. You'll find so much good stuff.
That's another good plus to the streaming. You couldn't do that back. You know, you'd have to
Yeah.
go buy 20 albums.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, man.
Well, I think we took this full circle. What's changed about the music industry is a lot, but what's stayed the same is a lot too. And there's definitely some weird gunk in the machine, but there's definitely some really cool shining lights out there too. And I really appreciate all your unique perspectives and bringing some of that to people's attentions, because without having four people with different perspectives in the room to hear that, there's no other way you're going to do it. So I really appreciate your invaluable contributions to this. I had a blast hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for
And,
having us.
hey,
Thanks for bringing us all
and
together.
This is the one last thing we have to do. So for the last month, we've been running a contest. All of our subs are the eligible winners. And tonight, in honor of our first live stream, we're going to announce the winner of our first contest. So my lovely
Vanna?
assistant, Seth,
Dun, dun, dun.
deliver me our lovely envelope, and Cassie, you can be the one to read
Oh,
it.
exciting.
So we had no envelope, so I did some crack origami on crack.
I was like, no, plane will not fly.
Yeah. No,
All right.
that's my
Let's
Hindenburg.
see. Drum roll.
So the winner of this package, just wait, the winner gets concert tickets from Reggae Rise Up for the Rise Up series, Reggae Rise Up hat from Tweeds, merchandise and CDs from Fiends, merchandise and album from All Hail the Queen, Oscura gift card, a beautiful framed photograph from Divergent Image, a original
raw.
piece from Brandon Thrift from the Spread Love movement. I'm sure I'm forgetting one other thing, and $100 cash dollarinis,
Nice.
American tender.
Yeah, please.
And you guys were all disqualified.
It's a trap.
It was a trap, and it worked.
I subscribed for nothing.
So to all of our subs out there, huge up to you guys. This is our first push. We are definitely going to be doing this again. We're doing the live streams one a month, every month. Next month will be tentatively at Tweeds Suit Shop in downtown Sarasota. So get in on that. We'll probably be doing another giveaway for that. Make sure you're subbed, because we love you long time. So without further ado, Cassie, who's
Our winner is
Paul.
Ashley
Wickline.
Wickline.
I know her.
Oh yeah.
Congratulations, Ashley. If you're watching this, reach out
Yay!
to us or I will reach out to you and we will get all of this lovely splendor on our way. Thank you for supporting us, everybody out there. Everybody tuned in. Thank you for watching. We will see you next month and we'll see you next Sunday with our normal scheduled program.
Yay.
Peace.